All right, so we are going to be going through the more hands-on portion of the review. And so I'm actually going to start with the constructions. So remember, you need your compass, you need your ruler, and we will get started by, not in the same particular order, but we're actually going to start with number 20 and do the angle bisector. After number 20, then I'm going to go to 19. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is construct an angle. So any type of angle is going to work here. I tend to do a bigger sized acute angle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my center here, and I'm just going to set my compass to a little bit smaller than one of the sides. And I'm going to draw my first circle. And then just to have some points to reference, I'm going to call where my circle intersects my angle. I'm going to call this one A and this one B. And since I'm going to be doing an angle bisector, let's go ahead and make this one C. All right, keeping my compass the same setting, I'm not going to change the radius on it. I'm going to come up to A, make it circle A, so that's where the pointy part goes. I'm going to draw another circle. Ooh, that got a little, I don't know what just happened there. Let's see. Let me fix this real quick. A little adjusted. All right. Ta-da. Okay, so like this. All right, there we go. Okay, then tighten this up a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing, but I will go from circle B, again, same compass setting, right? But I'm just going to make this pointy part be on B, so circle B with that same radius. And then where my two new circles meet, call that D. And now all I have to do is connect C to D, and I have bisected the original angle. So the directions at the top do say, when you've completed the construction, mark the characteristics that define the construction. So that means in this problem, I'm going to mark that this angle is congruent to this angle, because an angle bisector takes an angle and cuts it into two smaller congruent angles. Right, so if you can do 20, then you can do the same. You're going to do number 19 the exact same way. Except when I connect my final points, I'm going to be connecting different points to make a rhombus. So let's go ahead and go up to 19. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with CD, has to be a side, okay? And then angle D has to be the actual angle of the rhombus that I want to use, if that makes sense. So basically, I'm doing this. I'm going to make this be my angle. I don't even know if that makes sense to you guys. So here we go. Let's go ahead and start. All right, so what I'm going to do, make sure this is lined up so you guys can see, is I'm going to start with center D, okay? And I need to make CD be the actual whole length, is what it says. And so what I'm going to do, if you notice, if I start making the circle like this, my other segment falls just a little short here. So I'm just going to extend that out a little bit. I don't know if that was on purpose or just an accident by whoever made it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my same setting, and I'm going to go to C. So same radius, but center C. You can draw another circle. And then over here, I'm going to mark this point as E when I drew this circle. So let's just reference this as E, like this extra point here. I'm going to take the center here and draw same setting. I'm not adjusting my compass at all. So basically the angle bisector that I did down here is exactly what I'm doing here, except the angles, instead of being, you know, opening up this way, it's opening up this way. But where my two new circles meet here, well, I guess we can just call it F. Now instead of connecting D to F, I'm just going to connect E to F and F to C. All right, so now I have a rhombus. So again, once we've completed the construction, we're going to mark the characteristics that define the construction. So you need to remember that a rhombus has 4 congruent sides. So I'm going to mark this side, this side, this side, and this side. And if I take my compass setting, you know, these should all be the same. Okay? All right, so if you can do 20, 19 is the exact same way. All right, except again, the original angles are just opening up differently when I did it. All right, 21, we are going to make an equilateral triangle inscribed in a circle. That means the edges of the equilateral triangle will have to be on the circle. And then when we're done, we're gonna mark it up. But first, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and just get a little light diameter going here, like this. You can see that. But what I really want is just this point and this point. Okay, so let's call one of them A, let's call one of them B. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my compass, I'm going to put the center on B and have this be the radius, and I'm just going to draw a circle over on this side. And then I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to come over to A, same radius setting, center on A. I'm going to draw another one, circle over here. And then where these circles meet the original circle, I'm going to put point, a point, a point, and a point. And so we can just give them other letters like C, D, here's E, F. And if you connect all 6 points, you're going to have a hexagon. So since I want an equilateral triangle, which is only 6 sides, I'm going to pick 1 point to start with. So let's say we pick C. And then I'm not going to choose the next one, but I'm just going to go with every other one. So not this one. And then I just need to take my ruler and connect X to X to X. And you have an equilateral triangle. So when we mark an equilateral triangle, it is a regular polygon. It's just the regular polygon that's a triangle. And it has 3 congruent sides. So side, side, side. And it has 3 congruent angles. So angle, angle, angle. All right, the last one for constructions is going to be putting a square inside the circle, inscribing it. So again, that means the square, the corners of it need to touch on the circle. So the first thing I'm going to do is just get a diameter drawn. It's okay if you go a little bit past, so I guess not really a diameter. But what I'm going to do now is where my diameter on the ends of the circle, I'm going to do essentially a perpendicular bisector. So all I have to do is take my compass, set it to the length of the diameter that we just created, and I'm going to make 1 circle over here. And then I'm going to do the same thing, but put my center here, same setting, same radius, draw another circle. And then where these 2 circles meet, I'm going to take my straight edge and line it up. And what I like here, so basically like here's a diameter and here's a diameter, and I'm going to mark where this new diameter intersects the circle. And then I can just take these 4 and connect them, and I have a square. And again, a square by definition has 4 congruent sides, because this is the 4-sided figure that's a regular polygon. So congruent, 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 congruent. And all the angles are congruent, which means they're actually all going to measure at 90 degrees. So I'm just going to put boxes in my corners. Okay, those are the construction videos. I'm going to now move to the front page, and we're just going to go over the transformations that happen here with questions 3, 4, 5, and 6. And to do that, you'll want some patty paper. And I'm going to first reflect this triangle over this line. Okay, so the first thing I do is I'm going to leave my patty paper in place, and I'm going to trace the full length of the line of reflection. I'm not going to go longer, but I'm definitely not going to go shorter either. And then I'm going to redraw my triangle. It's short enough that I'm not going to use a straight edge to do it. And now when you reflect something, all you do is flip it. So I'm just going to flip this over, go right here, and then I can see through the patty paper where it lines up. And you know, if you poke hard enough through this, you might actually be able to see those pencil marks, which I can see them even if you can't. But then I've got my new shape, so I'm going to draw that first. But then since I've marked my letters on here, you know, and I flipped it over, I can see what letter's what. So I know this upper one is going to be F with apostrophe, the lower one's going to be G with apostrophe, and then this will be my E. And when I'm done, I should see, like, if this is the body of the butterfly, this side should be mirroring this side. All right, number 4, we're going to rotate this triangle 90 degrees clockwise. So we're going to go to the right around this point of 1, -1. So from the center over 1, down 1. So this is going to be my point of rotation. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my patty paper on there. I'm going to go ahead and trace. And I like to put an arrow on the one that points up, so if you can see that. And then I'm going to trace my triangle. So I'm going to have F and G and E. And I'm going to go to the right so that my arrow isn't pointing up anymore, but it's going to be pointing to the right like this, but it's going to rotate around this point. So like if I did take my little compass here and just hold it straight, it's going to end up, the arrow is now pointing to the right. And I've got F here, G here, and E here. So F and G and E. Put their little apostrophes to show the image versus the pre-image. All right, going to 5. So we just got 5 and 6 left. So this time I'm going to reflect over this line. So again, grabbing some patty paper, I'm just going to use another piece. And I'm going to trace the whole line of reflection. Make sure you get all of it. Don't move your paper. Go ahead and connect the sides of your shape. So I'm going to have P, and then R, and then Q. And so now I'm just going to flip my paper over, line up my line of reflection again, and then I can see where my points are going to go. So here's going to be R, here's going to be P, and then this is going to be Q. Really poke through those. Okay, so here's a point, here's a point, and here's a point. And then again, I can just line them up to remind myself what the points are. So P, R, then Q. Put my little apostrophes. And then it'd be better with the straight edge, but these are pretty short, so it's okay. All right, so again, butterfly body. These are the wings. They should be mirror images. And finally, number 6, I'm going to rotate. Now, it doesn't say point. If it doesn't say point, you guys, that just means you're rotating about the origin. But we'll make sure that's clear on the test. So this is going to go 180 degrees. So I've got my arrow going up. When I'm done, my arrow will be pointing down. So go ahead and trace that first. I'm going to get my points. And looks like we've got K, J, and L. And I'm just going to hold my paper in place. And I'm going to rotate 180 degrees. It doesn't matter if I go clockwise or counterclockwise, it will end up in the same place. So I'm just going to go clockwise so my arrow is pointing down, which it is, and then I can see where my points land. All right, so we got here and here and there. And those did not show up very well. Let's try this again. Okay, so J is here, K is here, looks like L is here. All right, and this was my J, and this is my K. Put those apostrophes, and then connect. This one probably is better to use with the straight edge, but okay. And now you have rotated 180 degrees. All right, that's it.